Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, "Received a reckless driving ticket on my private property road/driveway." Before anyone gets upset about the speed, this is a gated off private road/driveway. There was zero chances of another car being on it unless they broke through a locked gate and trespassed on clearly marked private property. So my driveway is in a weird spot that goes alongside a highway for about 4 miles before turning off and up towards the house. The entire property is fenced off and gated/posted private property, no trespassing. It's about 800 feet from the highway and slowly moves further and further from the highway. I use my driveway as a place to work out kinks in my cars, get them set up properly, etc. before going to the drag strip. I love cars and try to do things as safely as possible, roll cages, proper harnesses and helmet, etc. I never open them up on the road because I have no need to, I can do it on my own private property. Anyway, last night I was having fun with my newly broken in engine swapped car, doing a few runs back and forth, and after the 6th or 7th run down, I notice a cop with lights on sitting down at the gate. I head down and tell him I will be right back, I have to go get the key to the gate, but he insists I stay there, so I stay and he demands license, registration and insurance. I tell him I have none of those on me and the car is not even registered or injured. I bring it to and from the track and strip on a trailer. I tell him this because the car is not even street legal and is a track car. So he just gets my information from my name, DOB, address, etc. I ask him why he is even here because this is not a road. Why is he stopping me? He tells me reckless driving and he has me on laser doing 162. I start to argue that this is a private road/driveway, clearly because he is sitting behind a locked gate, and how can I be recklessly driving on private property? He starts telling me I can go to jail if I keep arguing, and after about 20 minutes of just standing at my gate, he gives me a ticket to sign for reckless driving. The ticket does not even have a posted speed for the road on it, because this is not a road. What do I need to bring to the court date to show this is not a road and he has no jurisdiction to enforce traffic laws on? I am not trying to cause a huge issue, but it is kind of stupid he even gave me a ticket. I didn't feel like continuing to argue with him because it was going nowhere. I live in Texas and the sheriff's department is who wrote the ticket. And a user in the comments said, "Plat map, could stop by the county highway department and ask for a plat map that shows the public roads. Land records department can get you a plat map too." And by the way guys, according to Wikipedia, a plat map is a cadastral map drawn to scale showing the divisions of a piece of land in the United States. Another user said, "I am a lawyer but not in your state. Sounds like officer charged the wrong offense since driving charges don't usually apply on private property that is close to the public. However, there may be a valid charge for some form of reckless endangerment which can apply anywhere. I don't see it necessary for you to prove private property as it is the officer's burden to prove you were on a public road, which he cannot." And guys, if you would ever receive a reckless driving ticket on your own private property, what would you do in this situation? In my opinion, this is absolutely outrageous, and as the person in the comments suggested, it seems that the burden is actually on the officer and not on OP to prove that he did something wrong. And the next one is an update to the "Received a reckless driving ticket on private property" story. Before my court date came up, I went around to the different county records offices and found an up-to-date plat map confirmed with several people that my driveway is not a road. I even had a friend come by who usually does drone photos for farms and had a nice photo of the entire property taken, showing the driveway with a GPS marker so that it can be lined up with the plat map, so there is no confusion on if my driveway is or is not a road. 2 days before my court date, I received a call asking if I want to take a deal on the reckless driving and avoid the court time, etc. And I said no and confirmed the date with them. Court date rolls around and my 10:30 AM time is just an estimate apparently, so I wait around until 2 PM. Right before I am finally called up, I am offered the deal one last time. Again, I decline. This is where it gets odd, and I'm not 100% sure what happened, but the judge opens a folder and briefly reads it and then calls up the county attorney. They talk for about a minute and then my case is dismissed. So that's it. I asked the sheriff outside the courtroom if it is possible to talk to the judge about it, and I am told the best way is to write him a letter. Not sure what he read in the folder, but I guess it was enough for him to see it was a pointless ticket. I did not see the sheriff who wrote me the ticket anywhere either that day, so I guess we did it Reddit. Or something, who knows, but now I get the fun of trying to figure out what my insurance wants as proof so my rates don't jump because of the ticket. And guys, if you have watched until here, please don't forget to like the video and maybe even post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support the channel. Thank you so much in advance. And the next one is titled Revenge on Entitled Coworker. The cast is me, entitled coworker, Libby, also known as the Tick, the Eye of Sauron, and Conan the Grammarian, my friends Chet and Kevin. Tick had a well-deserved reputation as a toxic person. She would painstakingly script any interaction with another person so that she was up here and you were down there. Her rules were: she speaks, you listen, she teaches, you learn, she tells, you obey. Mind you, she was a coworker, not a supervisor. A little bit of background: Tick had been a counselor for new employees at one point, which was a really bad idea. Our organization has a bad habit of finding the worst, most insecure person for a position and putting them in there. She was known to try and win the trust of new employees and then use what they told her against them in an effort to get them fired over trivial things. She would also watch the new employees to find any minor infraction and also try to get them fired. This is where she gained the nickname of the Eye of Sauron. After 2 sessions, the supervisor told her that she was no longer welcome. The supervisor was a down-to-earth, true gentleman with infinite patience. He was my counselor when I was new. I ran into him one day after this and he told me that she was a piece of human excrement. Coming from a man of that much patience, that said a lot. In our office, Tick would watch all of the other employees like a hawk. If she saw some minor infraction, she would run to the boss's office, glance back at everyone and flick her hand, saying loudly, "There's a problem with another employee." She would then go in and close the door. Afterwards, some poor schmuck would suffer an evil fate. She literally dimed people out for a 16-minute coffee break and a 46-minute lunch. She dimed out one guy for having sand in the company vehicle, but he lived on the beach and had to walk over sand to get to the car. We were all horrified that the supervisor even gave her the time of day. It was so disruptive and Tick reveled in the power. So some genius supervisor decided to put her in charge of a whole section of paperwork, not a supervisor but just a person to ensure formatting and correct procedure. She began kicking back paperwork for 3 spaces after a period, 2 spaces after a comma, telling you to change puppy to little dog. It was her way of making you bow to her greatness. In spite of all the complaints, no one could get rid of her and she was dug in like a tick. I had rebuffed her attempts to make her flunky. One time she demanded I stop working on my project because I would be working for her from now on. I was to be her baby employee and carry her things and help her format her paperwork. I had been in for 7 years and stopped her cold, so I was on the naughty list. So she battered me for 2 years on my paperwork, throwing me under the bus every chance she got, and the supervisor always took her side. I showed the supervisor some of my paperwork and said that Libby was right half the time. I was right half the time, and yet she took Tick's side 100% and the corrections were so trivial. So one day, Tick throws my paperwork on my desk and berates me. Tick, "Your paperwork's always so messed up. I'm going to read everything you sent me." Spelling and grammar were not her job to fix. Her job was to ensure proper procedure. Me, "Oh, thank you, Libby." She was taken aback. From then on I would type out forms and wait until Friday at 4 PM and toss a stack of paperwork on her desk and say, "Thanks so much, Libby. Boss needs this by 8 AM Monday morning. You have a great night." Then I got a collateral duty that put me in charge of mandatory training that most employees had to complete, including her. She was very bad at this particular function, so I told her, "You wanted to play this game. Let's play this game." I would stand behind her whenever she had to complete this function, which was once a quarter and was very physical. Like her with my paperwork, I would stand behind her and say, No, what are you doing? Don't you know how to do this? This is far more important than grammar. You should get this by now." Often she was the only one to fail this function, so when that happened I would get on the PA and declare, "All those who have failed this function, report to me immediately." I would walk up to the supervisor's door and wave my hand and say, "There's a problem with an employee," and I would go in and close the door. Amazingly, she stopped harassing me, but the list of victims was still long. Tick soon ran afoul of a friend of mine, Chet, who had been getting the same treatment. Chet went to the big boss as Tick was holding up a major project. Tick was called in to explain and she became unglued, screaming at the big boss. An all-office email came out within 10 minutes saying that Tick had been immediately removed from her position, which was given to Kevin. Kevin had previously endured Tick for 2 years as her baby employee, having been treated like dirt. He was another nice as could be guy and was ground into dust by her. Kevin got an award for turning the position around, and during the award ceremony Chad and I went up to Kevin. Tick was nearby, buttering a bagel. Chad and I told Kevin that he was the best person in that position and that we were so grateful and that he totally turned that disaster around. Tick dropped her bagel on the ground and fled. She retired the next day and we held the party where we played the scene where Sauron's eye comes crashing down as she left the building. And guys, if you enjoy the stories about crazy coworkers, please let me know in the comments and I might continue with them. And the next one is titled, "Remember Me, the Pastor's Daughter?" I currently work as an ASM at a clothing retailer as a result of the pandemic absolutely screwing everyone over and causing my office to decide to do remote work from home only. The problem was their low-tech IT team could not even have the virtual phones to handle the call load. My nerves were shot, PTSD hit from the pandemic, I was being screamed at by angry customers waiting on the line all day and I had to quit. Back to my backup, old retail job. Oddly enough, as exhausting as the retail job is, I don't hate it like I hated the call center. So there was this guy who came into the store, he was carrying a case for the clothes and was relatively nice at the get-go, asked me how my day was going, etc. They always act nice at first. Well, he came to return some clothes and presented me with the receipt. I check it and then I noticed that the date is from 2 months previous and it is a week after it's due. Our store policy requires you to return clothes no later than 60 days with the receipt and you can get all your money back. If you don't, you only get the value of the clothes back, not the full amount. I tell him this. He immediately gets angry and is like, No, forget it. That's not the policy. The other store let me return it once. Well, there are like 10 other stores in the area with extremely low pay and chances are some newbie let one slip by or maybe the GM called and got it overridden. This is rare, but it happens. Regardless, he is still going full Karen and that is when it hits me. I know this guy. I was homeschooled back in the day, went to a few classes on the side and some were camp events. I'm the daughter of a pastor, so of course they were Christian-centered. I'm a deist now, if anything. This guy was one of the dads of a bunch of kids. It was like 12 kids, but that number may have gone up to 15 because his wife was still having kids after high school in this homeschooling group. He was actually a chaperone and his family housed us for a camp-like event at one point. This event was annoying to me in that they forced us not to use any form of media, whether it be YouTube, Facebook, video games, movies, whatever. They wanted us to think on godly things and read the Bible instead. Sure thing, but note, I hate this form of control and will rebel against it every time. I brought my laptop and played games and watched movies while we were not at classes because screw that. Well, apparently, one of the kids, my roommate, ended up being displaced in this camp because they lost her info, and according to them she was not supposed to be there. This was obviously some clerical error. For some reason this dad, because he was the man of the house, for Christ's sake, actually had a say if she were to stay or to go. I remember being on the phone with the director myself with this girl in tow, asking what we could do while her parents stretched up the copies of the paperwork or what was going to happen to her. This man, also a pastor I might add, who I've had to listen to sermons about learning subservient wifely duties from, ended up doing absolutely nothing to help. He could have agreed to let her stay on until they got it fixed and help her avoid a total anxiety meltdown, but that didn't happen. Thankfully, I think this whole debacle got fixed 2 days after. She ended up briefly moving out and moving back in, but regardless, I was angry at him for not stepping in to help, saying anything or doing anything, and he got labeled a lily-livered, hyper-conservative, no birth control allowed in his house weakling in my head. Apparently, this stuck. Well, anyways, this guy was now ranting in front of me, saying how he knew better than I did and how he wanted corporate's number. I tell the GM, she goes to try and override it and it gets denied. So she hands him the number and tells him that our policy is printed on the back of the receipt. He still says he doesn't believe a word we are saying and does not even bother to check the actual back of the receipt. The whole time I'm ramping up for the thing that will make my whole day go a lot better. When he finally gets the number and is about to storm out, I go, "Are you Mr. X?" He goes, "Yes." Me, "Oh, I am X." The man's face just turns red from embarrassment and he realizes who he is talking to, because that is literally all it takes. I've never had this happen before, so this was a treat too. He starts mentioning my parents and blah blah blah, pleasantries blah blah blah. He mentions my dad because apparently the men of the family are the only ones worth any memory. Then he starts pulling a "who is me" card. I have empathy, but not when it comes to excusing away behavior, and I just nod my head. Finally he goes, "Oh yeah, I usually go to this store in this town, and we have had this happen before, and I may not have to call." At this point he is just rambling and backpedaling into the hole he has dug for himself, and finally he just kind of flits out. This point blank stopped him from continuing his Karen behavior and for not believing us, because you have to believe the pastor's daughter. Also, it confirmed my label validated. Good riddance, my manager and I had a laugh after this and I felt on air for the rest of the day. Pretty sure he never called corporate. And the next one is titled "Neighbor's Kids Stole My Dog." Recently I purchased a new puppy from an out-of-state breeder. He had a full checkup and was in perfect health. I have his AKC papers and he is microchipped. My dog and I go outside every day so he can run around the yard and do his business, and I can work in the garden and relax outside. A few days ago I let my dog run around our yard by himself for about an hour. My niece showed me the kids posting photos of their new dog on Facebook. It is my dog. He's even still wearing the collar and has his pet ID tag with my address. I went over to speak to the parents who refuse to return my dog since they don't want to disappoint their kids. That they already fell in love with it. The dad offered me $20 for the dog. Not only is this far less than I paid for my dog, $2,500, I don't want money. I want my dog back. If I call the police, will they help me get my dog back? If not, is there anything else I can do? I am pissed. They jumped my fence, stole my dog, and now they don't want to give him back. This is in Texas. And a user in the comments suggested, screen cap the photos, call the police in that order. And another person said, exactly, and yes, the police should get your dog back, assuming what you have posted is 100% true, then it is a slam dunk. I would not mess around at all, don't delay. Unfortunately, this will also probably cause a rift between you and your neighbors, but you cannot control that. Please update us as this situation unfolds. Update to the stolen dog story. Here is what happened after I logged out. First, I called my husband. He did not want me to be alone when the police came, in case our neighbors got out of hand. He said to wait for him to get home and we would go to the police station. So I called my sister-in-law to ask her to print the screenshots from niece's Facebook and gave her a quick rundown of what was going to happen. She told my niece I was waiting for my husband to get home from work and printing out the contract I signed with the breeder, got his AKC certificate, photos of him, etc. While I was doing this, my niece posted a status about how I was going to the police station and that these kids were going to go to jail, and she tagged the oldest kid in her status. I already plan on thanking her, but also explaining what things should and should not go on Facebook. These are middle school-aged kids, with the youngest entering 5th grade and the oldest just finished 7th grade. I assume the kids went crying to their father, who came over to my house screaming his lungs out. He said if I called the police, he would press charges on my niece for slander and harassment. He claims the kids did not steal the dog, they wanted to share it with me. He also didn't believe dogs cost that much and that it looked like a regular poodle mix. My dog is a Bichon Frise. I told him he needed to get off my property and return my dog, or I would call the police and it would be felony theft. We argued for a while and he stormed off cussing. He brought my dog and practically threw him at me. So, not much legal stuff happened. My dog is safe, although they painted his nails, which I am in the process of undoing. I plan on calling the police the second any of those brats cross onto my yard. For now, I am just happy my dog is back and I'm never letting him go outside unsupervised again. And Ripe stars, unfortunately we have already reached the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed the content. However, if you cannot wait for more Ripe content, then I suggest you head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where you can find more exclusive Reddit content read by me. Patreon subscriptions start at just $1 per month, and for $1 your name will show up at the end of each of my new videos. However, if you are willing to spend $3 per month, you will get access to more than 50 exclusive Reddit videos, mostly just no mother-in-law stories. However, please understand, I don't want to pressure anyone into spending money, because I am already incredibly grateful that you watch my videos every single day. Thank you so much for your daily support, it really means the world to me, and I hope to see you again tomorrow for the next video.